from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Good morning and thank you for being with us on UBC TV. I'm Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono. Welcome to the Extra, which is an extension of Good Morning Uganda. Now this morning we want to look at something very, very important in our country, and that is sustainable procurement reforms in Uganda. And when I talk about sustainability, well, that's something we're going to discuss. But if you have anything to do with procurement, we've always talked about issues of corruption, a lot of issues coming out of our procurement process. Now here we have reforms. Sustainable procurement reforms are what we are going to be looking at, and these are from the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Now I have a guest who happens to be the Commissioner, Procurement Department, that is Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Isaac Chaligonza. You're most welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Bwana.
And lovely morning to you.
You too.
Now, just to go straight, we want to look at first and foremost when we talk about sustainability, this whole concept, because we are looking at reforms that are sustainable in procurement. Now, where is the element of sustainability here?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, you know, procurement is, therefore it marries or fits so well into the concept of sustainability. Of course, sustainability is an English word, but it means continuity. It means continuity, perpetuity. So a procurement being the lifeblood, you cannot avoid marrying the two, or talking about the two concepts, that is procurement and sustainability.
Now this brings me to ask how applicable is sustainable procurement in our day-to-day lives? Yes,
procurement, sustainable procurement is very applicable to our day-to-day lives. First of all, whatever procurement is done, whether a good, whether for a service or for works, you find eventually that they have implications to our day-to-day life. Yes, and even picking from the pillars of sustainable public procurement, you realize, for example, even in our homes, you are buying a bulb. If you are careful or aware of sustainable aspects, you shouldn't be looking at a bulb just merely at the cost price. You should look at, for example, will it save energy? So if there are two bulbs, that is in our daily lives. If you applied a sustainable procurement, you should be able to think through the cost, but what about the life of that bulb? But what about the energy saving aspects of that bulb that I'm buying? If you're buying a fridge, for example, you should be able to think in details about the cost you'll incur, but how will you maintain it? What about the energy consumption? What about when it has lived up to its useful time? Where do you put it? How do you throw it? How do you destroy it? That is the sustainable procurement applicability in our day-to-day lives.
Now, kindly break for us this entire concept of sustainable procurement, what it's all about, because sometimes these terms confuse people, or sometimes you blend something, name it, looks, but really I feel into more dissect it for our public. When someone hears of sustainable procurement reforms, Can we digest it deeper?
Yes. True, it is a new aspect, a new concept we are embracing now in public sector procurement. So you are right that one would wish to appreciate what this is about. And as you stated, it is a reform. Now, we have the traditional procurement concept, which is about acquiring goods, services, and works for the public, for the government to deliver services to its citizens. That is the traditional public procurement concept that we all commonly know. But this reform brings on board the fact that in conducting public procurement, think beyond the traditional rights, the ones we call the right product, the right supplier, the right place, but go beyond and embed into your considerations aspects to do with the environment. Like I was indicating, government is procuring trucks, but what about the pollution in terms of the fuel they consume? That is the environment. What about the social? Would the government buy, say, a truck from a manufacturer who employs child labor, who doesn't pay on time and fairly their employees? So sustainable public procurement concept and reform aims at improving the traditional procurement considerations by bringing on board the social, economic, environment, and government aspects into the entire equation. And sometimes we are calling that whole life costing. Think about the cost of owning it and running it and managing it. But beyond that, think about what do you do after the useful life of that product. The procurement circles that we want to embrace. And by the way, this is derived from the 2030 global agenda. Yes, so we are in compliance with that, and we are having reforms championed by the Ministry of Finance, of course, as the lead ministry overseeing procurement and disposal function in this country.
Now, when was this whole thing? Because you're saying it's a new thing. It's a new thing. When was this new, or when was this concept hatched?
Yeah, thank you. This concept, one would say that unconsciously or informally, it might have been into practice, but it was formalized in 2015 at the inception of the 2030 global agenda, and that's when there was birth of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So when you look at it critically, this reform feeds into that agreement, the Paris 2015 agreement on sustainable development goals. When you look at SDG goal number 12, it is about sustainable production and consumption. And you know, procurement, maybe to say public procurement at that, is about consumption. And if you are consuming, you have the ability to affect or drive or influence the production. So this is the beginning point for world over to adopt sustainable public procurement. Actually, it is target number 12.7 of SDG number 12, which is sustainable public procurement, target on sustainable public procurement, derived from goal number 12 of responsible production and consumption. And this reform, therefore, at national level, we have embraced it and made changes or improvements to our national legal legal frameworks to have it accommodated, but also into our national public sector procurement policy. So it is now a component, it is now an element in our national procurement policies.
Well, you've talked about international level, at that level, but now we want to know why is it very important today? Because it is one thing saying the world is now a global village, and of course if you're a signatory to some of these things, definitely one would certainly go for these conferences, but let's look at domesticating it here. Why is its relevancy and why today?
Yes, there are a lot of benefits derived from implementing sustainable public procurement. You hear of disasters, for example, resulting from climate change. You hear of issues to do with contaminated water sources. You hear of child labor. So sustainable public procurement is intended to curb all such vagaries that would be a result of unsustainable practices if conducted.
Now, how can the public or private sector organize in promoting sustainable procurement practices?
Can you...
the private sector, because now we're looking at government leading, but how can the public, the private sector participate in promoting this new concept?
All right. Yeah, actually, whereas the government appears to be the ardent proponent of this reform, the private sector is a big player targeted to be involved in this whole equation. Government procures, for example, services, works and services from the private sector. And therefore, the involvement of private sector into appreciating this concept is very paramount, because then they should be able to, they'll be able to be the right partners. And as the Ministry of Finance, we have initiatives to involve the private sector. We have a program to build capacity, engage the market, which is the private sector, engage them, train them, share with them the experiences from elsewhere, get from them their appreciation of this concept, because then we shall be able to achieve our targeted program. Without them, we actually cannot.
Without the private sector.
That is the private sector.
And of course we know that, like you said, the government procures from the private sector. Now, since 2015?
Yes, 2015 on a global level.
On a global level. Now, domesticating this at home started? Domesticating
this at national level, obviously, started in 2019 when we, as a Minister of Finance, on behalf of government, and prepared the National Public Sector Procurement Policy, and has a component, a chapter to guide on sustainable public procurement. Again, in 2021, the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Act, what we commonly know as the PPD Act of 2003, was amended to bring on board sustainable public procurement. That was another milestone in bringing on board the sustainable public procurement aspect. And beyond that, we have in the ministry created a secretariat we call the Sustainable Public Procurement Secretariat to oversee all that is around planning, implementing, and monitoring sustainable public procurement aspects. And this secretariat is under the department I head, which is the Department of Public Procurement and the Procurement Policy, which is under the Accountant General's Office. Those are among the key initiatives that government through the Ministry of Finance is undertaking to actualize others.
Now that said, it shows work is in progress. We have what it takes to ensure that we have sustainable procurement reforms move on very well. Now, allow me at this time to look at achievements so far. What can we look at? Yes, 2015, that was at global level. Now we come here and domesticate this at home. What are some of the tangible achievements we can look at and say, these have been the benefits of these reforms?
Yes, thank you. I can proudly say we have a number of them, and these are premised on a 5-year national action plan on SPP. So that is number one. We have in place a 5-year plan on sustainable public procurement, and this has been approved by management of the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. It has 5 broad areas, including governance, including capacity building, market engagement, communication, which now I think I'm feeding into. And so that is achievement number one, a plan that will drive this, let me call it agenda at a national level. 2, as I said, we have created a secretariat. A secretariat that is fairly manned with trained staff now to move this, drive the achievement or actualization of this national action plan on sustainable public procurement. I should add that we have also guidelines in place now, and one of them is the guideline on reservation, where we are reserving some business for persons with disability, for women and youth, and that feeds into the requirements of sustainability.
The ring fencing.
The ring fencing. The ring fencing. So there is a guideline that was published, gazetted and published in March this year. It is another tangible result. So then that all about sustainable procurement is anchored on the law. Let me add that we also reporting, it is a requirement under SDG target 12.6 that we report on what we are doing in this line. It's a global requirement, and we have reported on that as well. We, as a tangible aspect again, are reporting and participating into activities annually that are organized by the Office of the Prime Minister on SDGs. It is an annual event, and we are part of that to demonstrate our commitment to support and implement that goal and target. Let me add that we have also organized, since October last year, we have capacity building sessions, online sessions, and every week we hold them twice to target suppliers, to target practitioners, to target the market, to bring them on board so that they appreciate the sustainable public procurement agenda. And this we have done, and we are still doing every week twice, and we get feedback. And we are happy that we are getting that feedback for us to improve. But we also happy that this concept now sinks into the practice, into the public, including the private sector.
Now, you've talked about these lessons, you've talked about the achievements, but are there organizations that are already implementing this these procurement reforms as we speak?
Yes. As I said, the concept is as new.
Yes.
But I can confidently indicate or share that there are institutions, both in private and government, that are implementing this sustainable public procurement aspect. One of them, I should say, is the mother ministry, the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. We have a new approach to procurement that now we call electronic government procurement. That is the digitalization aspect. The digitalization of procurement and disposal processes, right from planning to contract management. That way, we are embracing sustainable public procurement. How? It means then that you'll have relatively paperless processes. So you're saving paper, you're saving the forests, you're saving the environment, you're saving costs, both from the government side and from the private side. You know, bidding is associated or has been associated with voluminous paperwork. So by championing electronic government procurement system, we are embracing sustainable public procurement as Ministry of Finance. Two, we have cases in KCCA, and we are proud that although they are at the initial levels, they are demonstrating commitment to embrace sustainable public procurement. That's why I said some entities are embracing it unconsciously. But when you see the greening around town by KCCA, when you see some lanes being reserved for
persons with disabilities,
when you see some roads or lanes being reserved for pedestrians, that exactly is what we call sustainable procurement. When you see the involvement of women in as laborers to do the cleaning on the streets, that is empowerment of women and a core element of sustainable public procurement. We have other institutions. NEMA on environmental protection is feeding into sustainable procurement. Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development on rights, on labor laws, on child labor aspects, is all about sustainable public procurement. That's why I indicated that we are doing capacity building to enlighten some entities, because they are doing it sometimes unconsciously, and aware that they are doing sustainable public procurement, and hence the need for that secretariat under the department that I head in the Ministry of Finance, that is doing the mobilization, the communication, and awareness creation about sustainable public procurement. So there are a number of others that are indeed embracing sustainable public procurement.
Well, you're still watching UBC TV. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra, an extension of Good Morning Uganda. And I have the Commissioner, Department of Public Procurement, that's the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Charigonza, whom we are discussing these new reforms. Now, when you hear people talk about public procurement, sustainable public procurement reforms, what are we talking about? That is what we are discussing this morning. Now, we are going to be going for a very short break. Now, when we return, we'll be looking at the advantages. What is that we benefit as a country? Yes, being a signatory is something else. Domesticating it here in Uganda, we've looked at those that have already cited, but what are those benefits that are there for us? Much as this is fairly a new thing, and some could be participating in it, doing the right thing unknowingly, because it caters for what they are doing. We'll return shortly. Keep it with us on UBC TV.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Juko.
Yo.
Wachikuwa. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
The East Africa UK Tourism and Cultural Expo 2024 is here, happening on 8th and 9th of November 2024 under the theme Enhancing Tourism as Engine for Social and Economic Transformation on the sidelines of WTM London at the Rembrandt Hotel, 11th Thalo, PI South Kensington, London, SW7 2RS, United Kingdom. For tickets, exhibitors will pay £1,000 and participants will pay £300. For more information, call +256 787 096 100 or +254 795 806 969. Visit www.eauktourismexpo.com to register.
Once upon a time, there lived identical twins who gave birth to beautiful princes and princesses.
Their mothers gave their babies' bodies a lot of care by applying on their skin with baby Junior jelly.
So dried their chariots and everyone would admire their glowing skin. Fun fact, Baby Junior prevents diaper rash, dry and sensitive
Moms
skin.
all over Africa love baby Junior jelly. Baby Junior's the skin. No more worries anymore. Boo, 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 boo. Baby Junior.
Baby Junior.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archive stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story every story and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back from that break. Thank you for being with us. You're still watching the Extra on UBC TV. I'm Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono with the Commissioner, Procurement Department, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Isaac Chaligonza. We are focusing at sustainable procurement reforms in our country. Something relatively new, but government is looking at this as all-inclusive first and foremost, but also a better transparent way for us to handle our procurement process. Now, before we went for that break, I had asked the Commissioner that upon return, we'll be looking at something very important. Why? What do we stand to benefit going into these reforms that some have also said actually they are costly, will take more time, and maybe not very welcoming to them. Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to this second phase of our discussion. There are a number of benefits that we anticipate to achieve, or that we are achieving by embracing sustainable public procurement. As I indicated, even deriving from the pillars of sustainable public procurement, you just realize that we're on the right course. Number one, when you buy items or procure works that are compliant to sustainable public procurement, you are saving our environment. For example, if you are buying items that are reusable or recyclable, then it means that environmental degradation is avoided. That's a benefit one would look at by having items that comply with sustainable public procurement. Look at energy saving. By procuring items that save energy, you are obviously saving energy. And in the end, even saving on cost. That is, among others, a benefit that we hope to derive from sustainable public procurement. I already indicated the reservation schemes. Those aim at promoting local industry, local innovation, a benefit that is attached to sustainable public procurement. When I talk of fair pay, that is what everyone wants. When I talk of doing away with child labor as a requirement under sustainable public procurement, that is a benefit. Actually, we talk of the best value for money if you employed sustainable public procurement requirements. So, and look at it on the other side. One other benefit is derived from what we call the life cycle costing. So you know that I'm procuring a cancer machine at cost X. I'll maintain it at this cost. But after the use of this machine, I know how to dispose it. I should well in advance prepare, maybe with the manufacturers, to take it back and reuse it for other things. That is a benefit we are looking at when we embrace sustainable public procurement. So all efficiencies we want to derive from sustainable public procurement. Human rights, aspects of human rights, as I indicated in the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. So sustainable public procurement is actually that full equation that looks at the economics, the social aspects, the environmental aspects, health and safety, as well as governance. So it is that broader spectrum of looking at public procurement that we want to embrace, and all the associated benefits.
Now, this seems all around. It seems a kind of everything to be considered in procurement. Now, the element of time, the element of also ending up being costly, I've had some look at this as something to be left, that should be left for the developed world. Otherwise, it's going to take more of our time. It may take more of our money in the long run. If I'm going to procure something and I have to look at all those that you've talked about, the human rights, look at the environment, all these, when am I going to make the procurement?
Thank you. It is all about planning. It is all about commitment. Now, in terms of time, we have what we call procurement and disposal plans. These are plans required of government entities to prepare well in time, to indicate what they intend to acquire in a year, at what cost, and estimate timelines during which they want to do the processes up to acquisition. So the issue of time shouldn't be a problem as long as entities and the stakeholders there can do good planning. So that would sort out that worry. The issue of costs, yes, it has been said, and that is a perception, that perhaps when we advocate for sustainable, compliant products, we shall incur extra cost. I already indicated that we look at life cycle costing. You know, you may look at a product and wish to have it at a cheaper cost, but in the long run, you end up spending more than what you expected. For example, if you want to buy a printer that uses cheaper cartridge, and therefore it is in the whole sum a cheaper product, without thinking of maintaining it, without thinking of the cost of the cartridges, then you'll be duped to believe that you should buy a cheaper one. But in the end, you realize, number one, the cartridge that you bought at a cheaper price is hazardous to the health of the workers. Two, that you must buy very many for you to use them. Three, that you don't have knowledge about how you'll dispose it. Now, at the end of the story, what appeared cheap becomes expensive in terms of the consumables over time, in terms of the hazardous emissions that is associated with the cartridge, and three, the fact that you have nowhere to dispose this because you didn't take into consideration the after-use aspects. So one big benefit is that life cycle costing. So on the face of it, one may look at compliant products as expensive, but in the long run, they become the best choice. Imagine civil works that have left out a provision for the disabled. You may look at it as you are saving a cost,
yes,
but you are doing a damage to the other category of people that would benefit. So we want to impress it on all stakeholders, government, the private sector, that the way to go is to look at acquiring sustainable products that consider the traditional approach look at social aspects, look at the environmental, and look at it holistically and determine what you procured. For example, just to add, you'll buy a vehicle and you're not mindful about the pollution.
Yes.
Buyer X will buy a vehicle, but minds about the emissions, or buying some detergents that are used as an extra cost to mitigate the effects of pollution. So
Yes.
buyer A will think they have bought a cheaper product, but dangerous one. On the other hand, buyer B, who thinks through the nature of pollution emissions, buys it at an extra cost but saves life, and therefore is better, and that is better value for money than merely looking at the price. So we have to do some mindset change to appreciate that compliant items finally are cheaper than the other side.
Well, very interesting. These are the new reforms that our government is pushing. That's through the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Have been with the Commissioner, that is Procurement Department, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, looking at sustainable procurement reforms in our country. And these are all canvassing, because you find that they look at all aspects almost of life. Now, Commissioner, before I let you go, let me just have your parting shot.
Thank you. One, I want to impress it upon all stakeholders that sustainable public procurement has come to stay and is part of our life, and therefore that we should embrace it. As from Ministry of Finance, representing government of Uganda, we are committed to doing all that is possible, starting with our 5-year national action plan, to do publicity about this concept, to take it further to the regulator of public procurement, to take it further to Auditor General and the other key stakeholders, so that it is appreciated by the both public sector and the private sector, because then we shall be able to achieve our intended objective. Otherwise, it is the way to go, and we should be in position to embrace it.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Isaac Chaligonza from the Department of Procurement, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. And above all, thank you so much, our viewers, those that have been with us from 6:30 when we began our show. That is Good Morning Uganda, the Fantastic Five, the big team behind the cameras, the technical guys up there. You're doing a tremendous job. And above all, you are boss, the viewer. We can't wait to have you tomorrow, same time, when we'll spice up your mornings with relevant information that you need to know, but also some light moments and laughter here and there. Robert Chirabo Nyonyi Ntono, wishing you a lovely day. May the good Lord bless you. See you tomorrow, God willing. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by